Jesus is crucified. Not long after God created man, man sinned. Man disobeyed God. Anything that we do that is unpleasing to God is sin. God cannot be in a place where there is sin. So sin separated God and man. God sent rules for his people to obey, and when those rules were broken, people would go to the priest and offer sacrifices so God would forgive them for their sins. But God had another plan. God decided to send Jesus to live on earth as a perfect man who never sinned, and then Jesus would die on the cross to pay for the sins of all men. Those who believed in Jesus would be saved and have a relationship with God without animal sacrifice or priest. Those who did not would be separated from God forever. God told the prophets of the Old Testament that the Messiah would be coming to save the world from their sins. Many people had heard of the Messiah. Many people believed Jesus was the Messiah, but some did not. The chief priests and elders, also known as the Sanhedrin, did not believe Jesus was the Messiah. They had studied the scriptures and understood all the laws of the Bible, but they did not think Jesus was good enough to be the Messiah. They were more interested in following rules than seeing what was right in front of them. They hated Jesus. They thought he was faking being the Messiah to trick people into worshiping him. When they saw how much other people loved Jesus, it made them angry. They decided to have Jesus killed. They came up with a secret plan to have Jesus arrested. They made up stories for the judges and governors. They convinced crowds of people that Jesus needed to die. And Jesus never tried to stop them. Jesus knew all the horrible things that were happening to him were part of God's plan. Jesus was born to die on the cross. God gave him to the world to save the world. It was all part of his plan, but Jesus still suffered as he gave his life for us. The Roman soldiers led Jesus to Golgotha to kill him. Jesus was given a large wooden cross to carry to the place where he would die. Jesus was so weak from being beaten by the soldiers that he wasn't strong enough to carry his own cross. They had beat him, whipped him, spit upon him, and crammed a crown of thorns onto his head until blood was running down his broken body. So the guards grabbed a man from the crowd named Simon and told him to carry the cross for Jesus. Once they were to Golgotha, they stripped Jesus of his clothes. They took Jesus and laid him on the cross and stretched out his arms. Then they drove nails into each of his hands into the cross. They crossed his feet at the ankles and drove a third nail into his feet. Jesus was now stuck to the cross. They lifted the cross and dropped it into a hole. Jesus hung on the cross for all the people to see. This was not the way to treat the Son of God, who had come to save all the people. This was a way to treat criminals and thieves. Criminals were often hung there beside the road so other people would see them. The soldiers would put signs over their heads telling people what crime they had committed so people would know not to commit those crimes. Jesus had committed no crime, so on his sign they wrote, "King of the Jews." When people walked by and saw him, they laughed at him. They said mean things like, "Save yourself. He can save others, but he can't save himself. Show us that you are the Christ and come down from that cross." Even the thief hanging on the cross beside him started to mock him. The thief on the other side did not. He yelled at the first thief to stop. He knew that Jesus was the Son of God. He knew he had done nothing wrong, and he asked Jesus to think of him when he was with God. Jesus answered him, saying that day they would be together in heaven because he believed. Jesus stayed on the cross for many hours, while his mother, John, and many other women stood close by and cried. Jesus looked down from the cross to John and asked him to take care of his mother after he was gone, and John agreed. The world became dark for 3 hours, and then Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Father, why have thou forsaken me?" God cannot be where there is sin. Jesus knew God would not be with him while he took on the sins of the world. This was the part that hurt him the most. Not the beatings, the crown of thorns, or the nails, but knowing he would be separated from God. When Jesus knew the job was complete, he had paid for all the sins of all mankind, he said, "I thirst." Someone took a sponge and dipped it in vinegar and put the sponge on a stick and then they lifted it up to Jesus. After he received the vinegar to drink, he cried out, "It is finished." And then he died. At the very moment Jesus died, the ground started to shake and the graves burst open. People who had died before came back to life. The veil in the temple that separated the priest from the people ripped from the top to the bottom. The job Jesus had come to do was now finished. Even one of the soldiers knew these things meant that Jesus must have been the Son of God. After Jesus died, a man named Joseph of Arimathea went to the governor Pilate to ask for Jesus' body. Joseph believed that Jesus was the Son of God, and he wanted to be sure that Jesus was buried properly. He took the body from the cross, wrapped it in linen cloths, and put them in a tomb, and then he rolled a large stone to cover the opening. The members of the Sanhedrin thought they had won. They watched Jesus die, but they also remembered him telling people he would rise again on the third day. They thought the disciples might try to steal Jesus' body and tell people he had risen. So they went to Pilate and asked him to send guards to stand by the tomb for 3 days. Pilate agreed, and soldiers were sent to guard the body of Jesus that had been laid in Joseph's tomb. Okay, guys, it's time for our first letter of the day. Our first letter is the letter V. V makes the sound like in vinegar or very or vacuum. This is our capital letter V. This is our lowercase letter V. They look a lot alike. One is just smaller. Okay, we're going to practice writing them. To start your capital V, you're going to start in the sky and slant down to the ground, and then slant back up to the sky. And that is it. Okay, now let's make a lowercase v. The lowercase v is the same thing. It's just going to start at the fence, slant to the ground, slant back to the fence. And that's it. It's too easy. Okay, let's come over here where we don't have our picture. We're going to come over to the lines and we're going to pretend. We're going to imagine. We're going to start in the sky and slant to the ground, slant back to the sky. Let's do another one. Start in the sky, slant down to the ground, back up to the sky. There we go. Okay, now let's do our lowercase ones. We're going to start at the fence. Slant to the ground, slant to the fence. And again. Start on the fence, slant to the ground, slant to the fence. And that is it. Okay, our extra practice word is going to be vinegar. They gave Jesus vinegar to drink. So we're going to start vinegar with a lowercase v. We're going to start at the fence and slant to the ground and back up to the fence. The next letter is the little letter I. It's going to start at the fence and go down to the ground, and then we're going to do a dot in the clouds. The next letter is the little letter N, the lowercase n. We're going to start at the fence and go down to the ground, and then we're going to go back almost to the fence and make a hump. Next, we have a lowercase e. For the lowercase e, we're going to have to imagine our flowers right here. So we're going to start, we're going to go over, and then we're going to curve up to the fence, down to the ground, and come up just a little. Our next letter is the little letter G. It's going to be a circle under the fence, and then a tail. The tail's going to start at the fence and go down under the ground for the tail. The next letter is the little letter A. We're going to make a circle under the fence, and then a stick from the fence to the ground. The last letter in the word vinegar is the lowercase letter R. We're going to start at the fence and go down to the ground, then come back up almost to the fence, and we're going to make a hump, but just come down just a little. And that is how you spell vinegar. Good job. Okay, now it's time for activity number 1. Let me read the directions. Thief starts with the th sound. The th sound happens when the letter T and the letter H are together. Their sounds blend to make a new sound. Trace the th below, then circle the words that start with the th sound. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna write our T and our H. And these are gonna blend together to make a new sound. So we're gonna make our T, and then we're gonna make our H. Go down, and then up. That is what the th sound looks like, T and H. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna look at our pictures and we're gonna see if they start with the th sound. Okay, this one is a thumbs up. Does thumb start with thumb? It does start with the th sound, with the TH. There we go. Okay, let's look at this one. What is this? This is a telescope. Does telescope start with telescope? No, that one does not. Okay, now let's look at this guy over here. Oh, he's putting stuff in his pockets and it still has the price tags on it. He's stealing. He is a thief. Does thief start with thief? It sure does. We're gonna circle this boy who is being a thief. Okay, now let's look at this one. Toaster. Does toaster start with toaster? No, it does not. Next we have a tooth. Does tooth start with tooth? It does not, but tooth does end with the th sound. Tooth. Did you hear it at the end? But we're not looking for the end sounds, we're looking for the start sound, so we cannot circle that one. Okay, next we have a tractor. Does it start with the tractor? No, it doesn't start with the. Okay, our last thing down here we have rain and we have lightning. This is going to be a thunderstorm. Does thunder start with the thunder? It sure does. Thunderstorm is going to start with a TH. There we go. Good job, guys. Okay, it's time for our second letter of the day. Our second letter is the letter T. We have our capital T and our lowercase t. T makes the sound tall, or turkey. And we're going to learn how to write our T's today. To make the capital T, we're going to start in the sky and go down to the ground. Then we're going to go back up to the sky and cross over. Okay, that's our capital T. Now let's make our lowercase t. For the lowercase t, we're going to start in the clouds and we're going to go down to the ground. And then we're going to cross over, but not at the top. We're going to cross over on the fence. We're going to cross over in the middle. There we go, and that's your lowercase t. Okay, now let's come over here and let's make some capital T's. We're going to start in the sky and go down to the ground. We're going to come back to the sky and cross over. Let's do another one. Start at the sky, down to the ground, back to the sky, and cross over. Okay, now let's do some lowercase t. Remember, T's, we're going to have to imagine our clouds right here because we don't have a line to tell us, but it's in between the fence and the sky. We're going to start in the clouds, go down to the ground, and cross over on the fence. Then we're going to go back over. We're going to do another one. We're going to start in the clouds, down to the ground, cross over on the fence. Okay, now it's time for our extra practice word. Our extra practice word today is thieves. Jesus was on the cross between two thieves. Thieves does not make the t sound like the letter T, but it does start with the letter T. The second letter in the word thieves is a H, and when the T and the H get together, they don't make T and H. They come together to make the sound the. They make their own sound. They make a new sound. So thieves starts with a T and a H. We're going to make our lowercase t. We're going to start in the clouds and go down to the ground. And then we're going to cross on the fence. And then the next letter is the letter H. We're going to come up to the sky, make the lowercase h down to the ground, and then we're going to make a hump. It's going to touch the fence and then go down to the ground. When these two letters get together, they say th, th, th. That is called a blend. These two letters make a blend. Okay, the next letter in the word thieves is the little letter I. Go from the fence to the ground and then a dot in the clouds. The next letter is the lowercase e. To make our lowercase e, we have to imagine our flowers right here. We're going to start where the flowers would be. So we're going to do a line over. We're going to curve up to the fence, down to the ground, and up just a little bit. The fifth letter is going to be a lowercase v. We're going to start at the fence and we're going to do a slant down and a slant back up. The next letter is the lowercase e again, so we're going to imagine our flowers. We're going to go over, curve up to the fence, down to the ground, and up just a little bit. And the last letter is the lowercase s. And remember, it's like a snake, but we're going to keep it under the fence. So we're going to start under the fence just a little, touch the fence, curve around, touch the ground, come back up. And that is how you spell thieves. Good job. Okay, now it's time for our math activity. Let me read the directions. The day Jesus was crucified, a lot of different things happened in not a lot of time. 3 events are listed below. Finish the clocks so they both say the time of each event. Okay, so this one says they placed Jesus on the cross at 9 o'clock in the morning. We need to make both of these clocks say 9 o'clock. We have an analog clock. These clocks have 2 hands. One hand that's going to go to the minute, and then one hand that will point to what hour it is. So if it's 9 o'clock, it's going to go straight up. When the arrow goes straight up to the 12, that means o'clock. That means the hour is just getting started. We need to make a small arrow pointing to the 9 so we can know that it is 9 o'clock. So we're going to draw a line over to the 9. There we go. Now to make this one say 9 o'clock, this side tells the hours and this side tells the minutes. So we have the 00, which means that hour is just getting started. So we need to make our 9 over here. And now it says 9 o'clock. Okay, the next one says, darkness covered the land at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So we need to make these signs say 12 o'clock. Both of them already have the o'clock part. They already have the hour getting started. We just need to put the hour part in there. So for this one, we're going to write a 12, and that would be 12 o'clock. And to make 12 o'clock on this one, we have to make a short arrow pointing to the 12. So we're going to have to put them right there together, the tall arrow and the short arrow pointing in the same direction. And the last one says Jesus died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we have to make both of these clocks say 3 o'clock. We already have the minutes part. We already have the o'clock part. We just need to get the 3's in there. So we have 3 o'clock. And we need to make an arrow pointing to the 3. There we go. 3 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Okay, now let's read our verse. This is our verse from the Real Bible. It says, he said, it is finished, and he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. John 19:30. This is the verse when Jesus died. He bowed his head and he died. He said, it is finished, and then he died. And that's a very, very sad part of our story. But in this verse, we're going to look for the letter H. Here we go. Let's see. He. Is there an H in the word he? There is, right here, very first letter. He said, "It is finished." I think there's an H in this word. Can you find it? There it is, right in the middle. He said, "It is finished." And there's an H in this word. Right here. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his, I see an H. You see the H? It's the first letter. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head. There's an H in that word. Right in the beginning. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up the, we had an H in the, right in the middle. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. There's an H in ghost. Right there. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. John. There's an H in John. Right there. He said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. John 19:30. Good job, guys. Okay, now it's time for our last letter of the day. Our last letter is the letter K. K makes the sound k, k, king. They called Jesus the King of the Jews. They were making fun of him when they said that, but they called him the King. Okay, we're gonna look at our letter, our K. We have our capital K and our lowercase k. They look a whole lot alike, just very little difference there. Okay, we're gonna try to make our capital K down here. We're gonna start in the sky and go down to the ground. And then we're gonna come back up to the sky. We're gonna come over just a little and we're gonna kick in and kick out. There we go, that's your capital K. Okay, now we're gonna make our lowercase k. The lowercase k is gonna start in the clouds and go down to the ground. And it's also gotta kick in, kick out. But we're gonna start that at the fence. We're not gonna start back up in the sky. We're gonna go to the fence and we're gonna do kick into the flowers, kick out to the ground. And that's how you make your Ks. Okay, let's make some capital Ks up here. Let's start in the sky, down to the ground, back up to the sky, kick into the fence, kick out to the ground. Okay, let's do another one. We're gonna start in the sky, go down to the ground, come back up, kick into the fence, kick out to the ground. Okay, let's do some lowercase k's. We have to use our imagination because these start in the clouds. So we're gonna start these in between this line and this line. We're gonna start about right here and we're gonna go down to the ground. And for our kick in, kick out, we have to go to the fence. We're gonna start at the fence, kick into the flowers, down to the ground. Let's do another one. Start in the clouds and go down to the ground. Go back up to the fence and we're gonna kick in, kick out. There we go. And for K, our extra practice word is going to be King. King of the Jews is what his sign said. Okay, we're gonna do a capital K for this king because they were calling him that like it was his name. So we are going to make a capital K. Start in the sky and go down to the ground. And then we're gonna come back up to the sky and kick into the fence, out to the ground. Okay, the next letter is gonna be the lowercase I. It's gonna start at the fence and go straight down and then dot in the clouds. The next letter is the lowercase n. We're gonna start at the fence, down to the ground, and then we're gonna come back almost to the fence and we're gonna do a hump. Hump to the fence and down to the ground. The last letter in the word king is the lowercase g. And to make a G, we're gonna do a circle under the fence, and then we've gotta add a tail. We're gonna start at the fence, come down by this circle, go under the ground, and a tail. There we go, and that is how you write king. Good job. Our big word today is crucify. That means to kill someone by nailing them or tying them to a cross. They crucified Jesus. Now it's time for our Guess Who game. I'm going to read the clues and see if you can guess who it is. I was one of Jesus' disciples. I saw him hanging on the cross. I was standing near the cross with Jesus' mother and other women. Jesus asked me to take care of his mother when he was gone. Who am I? Who did all of those things? It was John. If you guessed John, you are being a great listener. Now it's time for our drawing activity. Let's see what we're drawing today. They put Jesus on the cross in the middle. There was a cross on his right and a cross on his left. That makes 3. In the space below, draw 3 crosses. Okay, I'm going to draw the one in the middle first. Over and down, and over this way, down and over, and down like long, over, up, and over, and up, and over. There we go, there's a cross. Let's draw another one. This over here, I'm going to do this one like a T. Down and across. Down and across. There we go. 3 crosses. Okay, it's almost time for this lesson to be over. What did we talk about today? We talked about the letters K and V and T. We talked about how when T and H get together, they make the th sound. We talked about time. We drew some crosses. And we talked about Jesus dying on the cross. That is very sad. This is a very sad story to hear. It's a very sad story to talk about, but it's a very important story. God's plan was to send Jesus to die on the cross to pay for our sins so that we could have a relationship with God. Jesus did everything that he did. He did the thorns and the cross, and he was whipped, and he did all of that stuff, even though he could have made them stop. He could have done a miracle and got himself out of all of that pain, but he didn't, because he loves us so much. If Jesus wouldn't have died on the cross, we wouldn't be able to go to heaven one day. But because he did die on the cross and he did pay for our sins, then when we believe in our heart that Jesus did that for us, then we can be in heaven with him forever. And that is the most wonderful thing ever. This is a sad, sad story that ends with Jesus dying on the cross. But the next story has a very happy ending. So be watching for the next Jesus Stories with Jolly. All of these stories are important. The happy ones are important. The sad ones are important. And all of them help us to understand just how much God loves us. Until next time, Jolly loves you.